John the Baptist is a better Christian than I am. Let's get into the gospel passage for the second Sunday after the Epiphany. Last week, we had the baptism of Jesus from Matthew. This week, we jump to it in John, which is kind of convenient for us that John tells it as already having happened. It's an interesting quirk in the Gospel of John that the baptism is told, but unlike the other three versions, it's told in the past tense, like John is telling the world about what just happened. And I think that is a central part of this story. Then the next day, John points out Jesus to a couple of his disciples. They see him, they decide to join him, and then one of those disciples, Andrew, goes and finds his brother Simon and brings him to meet Jesus. One of the things we love about this passage is that John seems to know his place in relation to Jesus, and that Andrew evangelizes on behalf of Jesus. The problem here for a lot of us is that John loses disciples. He's just going along, and then these guys go and upgrade to someone better. And we hear this, and it kind of freaks us out if we think about it. Like, we want to sympathize with John here. We don't want to think that Jesus is sheep stealing, which is what the church would call this today. So one of the things we understand about this is that John is not actually upset about this. He sees his job as working himself out of his job. And we hear this similar idea in leadership circles, that our job is to work ourselves out of a job, that we are training the people who will do our job later. And yet, somehow, Christians as a whole never seem to work ourselves out of this job. It's almost like we get kind of stuck halfway there. If we were really good at our job, we would be not only helping people find Jesus and then follow the way of Jesus, we would be doing it so that they don't need us anymore. But it's telling that so rarely seems to be the case. Now, there are a lot of obvious reasons for this. Some of it is our own ego, our tradition, and our practices locally. But probably the biggest obstacle to this kind of change is the institution, because we find ourselves thinking our job is not to work ourselves out of a job, but to maintain the institution that would preserve our job. That is clearly not the purpose of the gospel. While we might be afraid of the unknown, of what a post-church world would look like, John doesn't seem to be afraid of this at all. He seems to find happiness in finding the Messiah. He is happy in showing people the Messiah. And I would contend he seems, therefore, like he would be happy that they are going to follow him now, because that makes sense. John isn't trying to preserve his job as prophet. He's trying to do his job of proclaiming the good news of Jesus. So the question then, how might we put aside our own jealousies and need for supporting the institution, setting those aside for the joy of finding Jesus with each other? How might we find that joy and celebrate in it.